Now, Steve Phillips, our friend of the program, certainly always on Wednesdays. Love to see you here. We're going to get to the Mariners in a second, Steve, but I do want to talk first about the Angels and Shohei Ohtani. Everyone's saying there's no way that Artie Moreno and Perry Manassian trade him. What is your take?
Yeah, I look at it, I think it's baseball malpractice to not trade him. I mean, I really do. I mean, for the good of the organization, they need to recoup the prospects for him. They're not going to re-sign him. Let's put it this way. He's not going to re-sign before the offseason, before going to free agency. And if they're going to re-sign him, they need young prospects to play around him, because here's the thing. They have not won with Shohei Ohtani as a $30 million player, with Mike Trout, with Anthony Rendon, with all the money on the roster. If they give him $20 million more, $25 million more, they're going to be able to afford less around him. They're going to need young players. They have to trade him. Now, I understand that there's been thoughts that Artie Moreno said, well, but we're going to make $20 million on days he plays at home with us for the rest of the year. Well, if you trade him, you're going to save $10 million in salary, and you're going to get probably 6 blue chip prospects, because he's the best pitcher in the free agent market or the trade market. He's the best hitter in the trade market. You're going to get 6 prospects. Those are going to be worth $10 million each. You're going to be well ahead of the game by trading him. It doesn't make any sense at all from a baseball perspective. It's going to come down to Artie Moreno, the owner, maybe doesn't want to put his name attached to trading him. Who cares? And then there's thoughts, they don't want to trade him to the Dodgers because they're in their backyard. They don't want to trade him to the Astros or the Rangers. Who cares? He's going to play for them for 2 months, and he's going to go to free agency. He can sign with those teams if he wants to. It's malpractice not to trade him. They've got to move him, bring the prospects in. And the idea is, don't just win this year. Win for as many games as you can, for as many years as you can. 6 blue chip prospects will give them the better chance to do that.
Yeah, he's going to come with a big haul and a hefty price tag, no question. The one thing the Mets don't have an issue with, Steve, is money and a price tag. But they're going to have to be sellers, because as of right now, unless there's a miracle, they're not making the postseason. Who stays and who goes as far as the Mets are concerned?
Yeah, right. The Mets are interesting, right? Because money's not really a factor. So everybody says, well, you can get up under Scherzer and Verlander. Well, why? Because if you trade those 2 guys, then you're going to have to replace them next year, and you're probably going to have to eat a lot of the money. So why bother? Because the reality is that Scherzer and Verlander are better than most of the pitchers who are going to be free agents in the offseason. So you've got the Lance Lynns and Lucas Giolito's and Marcus Stromans and Blake Snell, all very serviceable guys. But I would take my chances with Verlander and Scherzer, considering I understand they might be overpaid for what they're going to be next year, but they're still going to be better than a lot of the available pitchers next year. So the Mets may sell. I would not trade either one of those guys, Scherzer or Verlander. I'd hold on to them for next season. Then go sign Julio Urias if you want. Add him into the rotation with the 2 veterans. So I see Tommy Pham, Mark Canha, David Robertson. Those are guys I could see the Mets trade. Go out and replace them. They're more easily replaced in the offseason than certainly Verlander and Scherzer are. And if money's not a factor, I hold the 2 big ace pitchers.
Yeah, and I think that Robertson certainly has upped his value, considering the job that he has done in the absence of Edwin Diaz. He's been tremendous in that bullpen for the Mets. One of the bright spots. Okay, Steve, I never thought in a million years I'd say the Mets and the Padres weren't making the postseason in 2023, but here we are. Do Blake Snell and Josh Hader get traded?
They should. And again, I think so much is, you look in San Diego, so much is invested in trying to win this year. And, they're beating the Pirates right now. They're going to play the Rangers over the weekend. But the reality is they're 6 games out of the wild card, and they've got a ton of teams in front of them. And in order to win 89 games this year, they've already played 102. They have 60 games left. In order to win 89 games, which is probably a pretty good number to make the playoffs, they've got to go 40-20. They're 4 games under 500 on the season. They've not played like that team at all this year. You've got to trade Snell, trade Hader, go out there and listen. If you trade Hader, Robert Suarez can go to the 9th inning. You're going to be fine there. Snell's been great, but he's been so great. You're still under 500 right now. I think they have to punt on this season and bring in some grit, bring in some toughness, some competitiveness. Something's lacking on that roster, and so I think that they have to be sellers.
Yeah, that's been Chris Russo's biggest knock on the Padres. They just don't seem, in his opinion, to have that grit and that fire. A lot of superstars, but not necessarily that tenacity that he's looking for. Okay, if you look at the Cubs, Cody Bellinger bet on himself with a 1-year deal. Could they be buyers? Could they be sellers? What is their future like, Steve?
Yeah, I actually think the Cubs are an intriguing team. I think they should be buyers and sellers. I don't know they thought they were a playoff team this year. So they've got two players that are free agents at the end of the year that are both playing well, that they can get a pretty good return. A lot of teams interested in Cody Bellinger. Marcus Stroman's going to opt out at the end of the year. He's pitched great. Go ahead and trade those guys. But in the meantime, be a buyer too. So the Pittsburgh Pirates are considering trading Mitch Keller and David Bednar. They both have controllability for a couple more years. Trade for them, give up the guys that are going to be free agents at the end of the year, get in on Dylan Cease if he's available, bring him into the mix, and you could still compete for the rest of this season because they're playing pretty good baseball right now. They're 5 games out of the wild card. So I look at it and say the Cubs are an intriguing team where they can sell and buy, still compete this year, and be a better team in 2024.
All right, the Diamondbacks, they're also a team that's kind of on that bubble, had a great start to the year, really maintaining, but they've fallen off a bit in the second half. Steve, what do they do?
Yeah, so I think they're an interesting team too. And they're fading a little bit, and it's a young team. The league's made an adjustment. They haven't seemed to do it. Now, they did get Merrill Kelly back. That's a good sign for them. Corbin Carroll keeps on playing. I think that they have to be thoughtful and prudent about this. I would buy if I'm them, but I'm going to buy controllable players. I don't think that it makes sense to give up your farm system for rental players right now. Let the kids either get you there or not get you there. But if you can get in on Keller and Bednar and Cease and guys that you can have some controllability beyond this season, get in on them. If you're going to give up prospects, get some ability to have players beyond just the 2023 season. So I think they have to be tempered a little bit in how aggressive they are. Buy controllability.